the sweet life, rolling in sunshine, rocking the good time with all our friends. Easy and carefree, out in the summer breeze, loving at several banks for hours on end. Right about sundown, we lay on the ground, count on the stars as they come out one at a time. Ain't this a sweet life?
Hey everybody, I'm X Factor winner Tate Stevens, and welcome to the Sweet Life Podcast, where we talk about everything from music, sports, food, entertainment, and, well, just living the sweet life. Hey guys, thanks for listening today. Tate Stevens along with AJ.
Yes, sir.
So, today, listen guys, real quick, we're going to talk about 90s country music.
Yes.
I mean, listen, it's probably the greatest, well, I can't say the greatest era of country music.
Yeah, you can.
All right, it was the greatest era of country music. Man, I just, it's one of those things for me growing up, you know, in being a teenager in the 90s. So all these songs and all these artists meant so much. It was kind of one of those, you know, you just grow up with it and it becomes part of you. All this music and there's so many great artists. So today, AJ and I are going to kind of give our favorites, top five-ish plus-ish, favorite male, female, and groups.
We may have more honorable mentions than we do lists.
Yeah, tons of those. So kind of hit that today, and it's going to be a good show. So stick around. Some of you're going to love as much as we do, you know, and then some of them you might go, oh yeah, I forgot all about that artist.
Yeah.
But man, just there's so many great artists that come out of the 90s, and some of them are still playing today, which is awesome. You know? So you still get to see them and things like that. But just it's one of those eras of music in our genre that is, man, it's just hard to beat that music. It really is. So also on the show today, we have a good friend, Mr. Roger Carson is going to be on with us.
Yeah.
Roger spent many, many years in the radio business as a DJ on several different stations, but for a long time here in Kansas City. So he's going to be on, kind of share his story and his love of 90s country and just country music in general. Also, he has some really good stories about the people he's met. People have come through just starting out, and then he gets to see them when they're selling out arenas. So pretty cool stories from Roger today. So you guys don't want to miss that. But, man, all right, AJ, well, let's go, man. Let's figure this out. Starting off with the male category of 90s country males.
Yes.
Now, okay, so when I think of 90s country, there are some artists that are coming out of the 80s that were just getting going in the 80s, and some all the way through the 80s that were still big. George Strait, obviously, Randy Travis. So those don't really count as 90s artists, even though they were making hit records in the 90s,
Yes.
and it's still part of 90s country. I mean, they were kind of the 80s guys, right?
Right.
So now there's a few on here. There's one or two on my list that were coming out of the 80s, late 80s, 89. So they're going to make that.
You know,
they're going to make that cut coming in.
close enough.
Yeah, they're going to make that cut coming in. So my first guy, obviously, you can't think about 90s country music and not think about Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
You know, to me, no one had a bigger impact on music than he did in the 90s, and country music for sure. And just there were so many hits, and just his road show was amazing. It's like a circus. So Garth is my number one guy coming out of the 90s. Yeah, so what about you?
Same.
Okay, good.
He was my number one. I remember watching, when I was a kid, it was like a 2-night concert special. I can't remember, it was on network TV, because we didn't have cable back then.
Yeah, right.
You know, 4 channels, fight over them.
Yeah, exactly.
We had, it was, I can't remember where it was or what year. It was like early 90s.
Okay.
And it was like a 2-night concert special. I don't know if you remember that or not. But anyway, that was like my first, like, oh my God, this guy is nuts. Because he was swinging off ladders that were hanging from the ceiling. He was playing the saxophone on that one song that I guess he That's one song he learned how to play saxophone for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't remember what song.
Yeah, Stay Up with the Late Late Show. Sing along with the ones I know.
One Night a Day.
One Night a Day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah, okay, so that was in Texas Stadium. That was the show in Texas Stadium. Had a black and a gold shirt on.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and they had the rain for the Thunder Rolls. He really had rain falling on the stage and all this craziness.
Yeah.
And that's the one where he flew out over the audience on the wires. Yeah.
Yes.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I remember. I'm telling you about the show. Obviously.
It's like all this stuff. I can't remember.
I don't remember that one at all. Yeah, so obviously, Garth Brooks, huge.
Yes.
For sure, for me, the 90s biggest impact, and probably that's what I remember about 90s country was Garth Brooks.
He was the man.
For sure. Next on my list, you want to do all males and then females in bands, or you want to do kind of mix them up? I don't know.
Let's do that.
Just do all male. Okay.
Yeah, maybe
so second guy came out in 1989. So right in that 90s was Clint Black.
Okay.
Loved, man, his first couple of albums were just killer. And again, growing up, becoming a teenager, listening to Killing Time and Love and Blind and all, just great stuff. Country, very country, and great. And I remember, so talking about Clint Black just a second, in Belton, growing up, Clint used to come to Rich's Steakhouse in Belton, which was a bowling alley. They had the bowling alley and they had the steakhouse and lounge on the other side. Well, Dad used to play at Rich's Steakhouse.
Yeah.
In the thing, and Clint would come through like right before he got his deal, and then obviously after, even a few times would stop in and play, and so that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but
Didn't know that.
Clint Black, to me, I think that he had that country thing, real country. That was, but it was different. There was something different about his voice. There was something different about, the thing.
It was very like old school Merle Haggard-ish.
Sort of, yeah. And it had that really, it had the twang that you look for. I mean, but it, man, just great, and a great musician, great player, played harmonica. It was kind of cool, kind of different, So he, to me, is my second male. Out of the 90s. So,
gotcha.
What's up? What do you got there?
I got Joe Diffie.
Okay,
that's my number 2.
Number 2 guy. So, I will say Joe is my number 3 guy. And here's the only reason why is I think I put him at number 3, and this is just all off the top of my head, kind of like thinking back and like remembering parts of the 90s. There's a lot of bacon and eggs in there for me, between 1990 and today. So I'm trying to, sitting just writing these lists out, going, man, Garth and Clint Black, and then Joe, right?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about Joe Diffie is listening to Home. His very first single.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it, and it like took a minute. It took a minute for me to kind of, it was kind of not bluegrassy, but it was, very finger picky, thing. So, and it was great, but it kind of took a minute, for me to get it. I thought he was a great singer, obviously. As soon as I heard him sing, I'm like, wow, this guy's great.
Sure.
And it's very country still, but it was a little different, and so it took a minute for that song. But once I got that song, it was really, it went. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, that's the guy.
Yeah.
I started trying to sound like him that day. I mean, like burning up. The 1,000 Winding Roads, and just that his first. Oh my God! I just literally the cassette tape, and flip it over, flip it over, and he would sing, and when he was singing, his voice was so smooth, just had such a warmth and it was so awesome to me. And so I was like, man, I want to sound like that. That's when I sing, I want it to sound like that. So here I am, 15, 16 years old, trying to figure out how to, have a more mature voice, when I'm
How do
singing.
I sound like maybe the greatest country music singer
Of all
that's
times.
out right
Yeah,
now?
I don't
How do I
know.
sound like that guy?
How do I do that? So, so I would just listen to his songs and imitate what he was doing, with the drops and the, if you want me to, just those things. And then he would soar, just like, oh, if it takes, and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I could do that because, I was like 15, 16. So that was a little easier then, for me, Joe Diffie, man. And it was just, song after that, it was song after song. Still Clint Black, still Garth Brooks, of course, George Strait, obviously, and Randy Travis and those guys. So, yeah, man, I'm agreeing. Joe's my number 3 guy. So
yours is Garth Brooks, Clint Black, Joe Diffie.
And Joe Diffie, yeah.
Okay, so I got Garth Brooks, Joe Diffie. My number 3 is Alan Jackson.
Nice.
That was, I think I was in 6th grade.
Right.
6th grade when that video for Chattahoochee came out with the, where
With the
he's like,
boats and
where he's skiing just with his cowboy boots on and the jeans and the t-shirt. And that was like the first time I really became aware of Alan Jackson.
He was
like,
sitting in the inner tube, in the inner tube with his boots playing his guitar.
Yeah.
Well, definitely. Alan is number 4 on my list. Yeah, he's number 4 on my list.
And we haven't coordinated these lists, but
no, not at all. Not at all.
Seems like we're
Yeah, not at all.
okay.
Okay, so who do you have for number 4?
My number 4 is Travis Tritt.
Ooh, okay. All right. I like that. I like that.
I think the first song that I really became aware of Travis Tritt was Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a later.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I always knew of him, but
Right.
that was the first time I'm like, oh, this is a guy.
Yeah,
You always
absolutely.
hear people on the radio, but until you, like, visualize something, you're just, But that was my first real encounter with Travis Tritt.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's your number 4. All right. So now here's where mine gets a little tricky.
Uh-oh. Is this your 11 honorable mentions?
Yeah, this is my honorable mentions because each one of these guys have a different spot for me in 90s music.
Okay.
And when I think about the 90s country, this is what I think about. When I was putting this list together, I'm like, well, what about this guy? Great songs, huge fan. What about this guy? Great songs, huge fan, great singer, great, whatever. And it was really hard to narrow it down to 5. So, John Michael Montgomery. Now, I know, right? It's like, oh yeah. John Michael Montgomery. So
That's my number 5.
is it your number 5? Oh, good. Oh, good. So John Michael Montgomery, man. His music, Beer and Bones, right? I think that was his first one. I think that was his first song.
I think it
right?
was.
Man, when I heard that, I thought, here we go, man.
There's some yodeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. I like this. Kind of that beer drinking-y kind of thing. And I'm like, dude, I dig it. Right. Yeah. And then, then you go on to some of it. He had probably some of the biggest love songs, if you will, in the 90s, man. I swear.
Yeah.
I mean, then we had all those bands. Was it NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or somebody? They did it. They did a version of it with him. You know what I mean? So I mean that song crossed over a ton. I love the way you love me. I wrote a bunch of songs down.
Oh.
Yeah. Just thinking back on some of these artists, man, and so I Can Love You Like That.
Oh yeah. All for One.
Oh,
I think wasn't it All for One that
Oh, probably. Oh, yeah. They did. They did a version of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's funny. Ryan Reynolds is in this movie, and I don't know what it is. And it starts out, and he's a fat guy. He's like fat when he was in high school, and then he slims up to be Ryan Reynolds. And he comes back to his hometown and trying to pick up on his old, the girl he loved and all that. And their friend. And at the end of the movie, the outtakes, he's singing that in his fat suit. I don't know why. I don't know why he went there, but that's funny. But no, so John Michael, man, had all these great songs.
Yeah.
And of course, now we're in high school, man. Now girls are real important.
Oh, yeah.
And so these things are happening. You mentioned Travis Tritt. Travis is on my honorable mention list. Anymore. Oh, come on, man. So do you have any honorable mention guys throwing on your list?
No. I have honorable mentions for later, but I don't have any for me.
All right, well, I have some more honorable mentions here. So, so Mark Chestnut, another guy coming out of the 90s, dude. Another one of those guys in the 90s. His music was really kind of one of those turn point parts of my teenage years. Went to see him live a couple times, and it was awesome. And then later got to open shows for him. So that was cool. Clay Walker.
Yeah.
I remember 1993. Don't know why I remember this. I remember my alarm going off. Well, it was music. I had my alarm clock radio, and I was a senior in high school, I think. Junior, senior, I can't remember. Senior in high school, and my alarm went off, and it's playing What's It to You? I Gotta Know What Love Is to You, because that was his first single. Well, they're killing this song on the radio. I mean, they're playing it 1,000 times a day. And, of course, blows up to be a big hit, But I just remember, for whatever reason, that's the first time I heard it when I woke up, and I thought, wow, I like this. I don't know who it is, but I like it, So listening to the radio, in my truck and stuff, and finally figured out, oh, it's Clay Walker. The guy's name's Clay Walker, So Clay Walker. Then Tracy Lawrence and Tracy Bird, both Tracys. Great alibis, man. And even... one of I See It Now, and I mean,
he had a cool series of music videos.
They were all tied together.
Like a Quantum Leap type thing.
It was very
for
cool.
all you not so young people that remember Quantum Leap.
That
was my favorite show growing up, man.
Quantum Leap.
Oh
really?
Man, I loved it.
No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
We'll do TV shows of the 90s in a later podcast.
Absolutely. So I think that was it. Travis Tritt was in my honorable mention guys too.
Gotcha.
So there's my male artist of the 90s. Now female artists. Now again, Reba's gonna be in there just because she was making big old hit records back then. In the 90s also.
Well.
So.
Yeah, she didn't make my 90s list.
She didn't make your 90s list?
She didn't make my 90s list. No, because she had a lot of stuff in the 80s.
I know, but...
so...
She's like George Strait, though.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
All right, I get it. All
Whenever,
right,
this was when I think of 90s, this is what I think of.
All right, go ahead.
So, we'll start with number 5 and go to 1.
Okay, number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5, here we go.
My number 5, Terry Clark.
Oh, nice.
Terry Clark. She always had the cowboy hat and the T-shirt. And I always thought she just had like this cool look. And I couldn't remember if she had a mullet or if it was just long hair.
No, just long hair.
Just long hair. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the cowboy hat, you can never tell. But
absolutely.
Anyway, that was my number 5.
That's a good one. Susie Bogus was my number 5.
Yes.
Susie Bogus was my number 5. Just Terry Clark. I forgot. That's one. See. There you go. One that I forgot about right there.
Absolutely.
All right.
What's your number 5?
Susie Bogus was my number 5.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Susie Bogus.
So my number 4, Pam Tillis.
Oh, very good. Very good. That's a good one.
Shake that sugar tree.
Shoot. Let me see. My number 4 is Trisha Yearwood. My number 4 is Trisha Yearwood. And I'll tell you why she's number 4. And she falls.
If Garth listens to this, he's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, yeah. No, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with singing. It had nothing to do with singing, obviously, because she should be number 1. one or two anyway with her voice. But she was my number 4 just because of her music. Her music was kind of in that space where I wasn't, it was great, but for me it was just something that I wasn't really into at that, in when she was starting to make her run, I wasn't really digging it, right?
Yeah.
Like I was some of the other females, but no, singer wise, you don't find a better one really than Trisha. She's amazing. So, all right, 3.
Number 3, Winona.
Why no?
Yeah.
All right.
That was
Winona.
when I think of 90s female.
Yeah.
Winona's one of the, even though I think the Judds were in the 80s.
Yeah, they were.
Winona's big coming out was,
Absolutely.
I assume, was the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, so mine, mine is Martina McBride. Another powerhouse, 5'2", but can sing her face off, just louder than snot. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Martina, I thought, to me, was one of those 90s icon, female artists. And these are going to be in an order where, I could roll the dice and they could fall in a different order and I would be okay with it.
Right.
For me. You know what I mean? So, all right, number 2.
Number 2, Trisha Yearwood.
Okay.
That's my
All
number
right.
2.
Very good. Very good. My number 2 is Lori Morgan. Tell you why.
I forgot all about Lori Morgan.
See?
How do you forget about Lori Morgan?
No, okay. The Something in Red video. This is why she's number 2.
Good God Almighty.
I hate it. I hate the fact that when I think about Lori Morgan, that's what I think about. The Something in Red video. But she was so beautiful. I mean, smoke show, dude.
Yeah.
Smoke show.
Yep.
And okay, so there's another one that's number 2 also. So I have a tie for number 2.
Okay.
Faith Hill.
Yeah.
And another smoke show.
See,
Another complete
She didn't make
smoke
my list
show.
because I think of Faith Hill as like clear on,
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing.
Is she still like putting out songs today?
I think so. Well, they tour. Her and Tim tour
Yeah.
with whatever that tour is. Their married tour. I don't know what it's called.
Married tour.
Yeah, the married tour. We've been married for 15 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
20 years. So and here's why for me, Faith Hill. I thought it was, being in the clubs playing music. Her songs were Take Me As I Am and all that stuff that was being played. The DJs were playing that in the clubs, so that's another one of those things that's what it meant. That's what the 90s country meant to me.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. So my buddy Pooch and I, he'll be a guest on our show one of these days. But he we went to see Faith Hill at the American Royal. So the cool little story about Faith, she comes out, plays. Well, the Cowboys and stuff would sit on the floor. They would come out and stand on the floor, but everybody else had to stay in our seats at Kemper Arena.
Yeah.
So there was no one really in front of her, a handful of people. So she was all bummed out. She was like, I'm not used to this, not having anybody in front of me. Can y'all come down in front? Dude, I hopped the fence faster than, no, listen. And the poor security guard that tried to catch me. And dude, I'm flying across the dirt with the rodeo arena, just right up to the front of the stage, right in the middle, staring right into her amazing looking face, right? So yeah, I know this is crazy, but and so he comes up, Pooch comes up, we're standing there like, oh yeah, right up front. And so she was singing, she does her show, and we're all like, and now there's hundreds of people standing in front of her, and she's having fun, right? So this is no lie. This is not a lie. She was like, she pulls out a stool. Well, when an artist pulls out a stool, what are they going to do? They're going to bring somebody up to sing to them, right? And the whole night, like I'm trying to make eye contact with her the whole night, right? Pick me, right? So, and she's staring right at me. And she's talking about singing to somebody, bringing somebody up to sing to. So I'm like, she's looking right at me. And she nodded her head, like looking at me, nodded her head. And I'm like, oh my God. So I put my hands on the stage, getting ready to throw myself up there, right? And I don't know why I looked down. I don't know why. Something just, like I caught something out of the corner of my eye. And here's this little kid standing next to me. And I look down, and he's looking up at her, and she's looking at me. And then I'm looking at her, looking at him. And I'm like, and I look up, and I was like, oh, my God. So I grab him, and I throw him up on stage. And people are screaming, wow, that stuff. And I looked at her, and she gave me the biggest smile. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, like, kind of winked, like, that was good on you for doing it. I didn't want to. I wanted to punch him in the face. And she sits up there and she's singing to him. This little kid's like, hey, he's got his big old smile and stuff. And then she kisses him on the cheek, and he comes walking back over and like looking for help down. I'm like, no, dude, jump yourself. Put yourself down.
Break both your ankles. You deserve it.
You deserve it after that. Anyway, and so she comes by and she's shaking everybody's hands, and and here's the thing. This is my claim to fame with Faith Hill. And whenever, if Tim ever listens to this, I just want him to know.
He's going to.
Yeah. I just know that he's she told me she loved me before she told him she loved him. Because when I shook her hand, I was like, I love you, Faith. And she was like, I love you too, sweetheart.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know you do. I know you do. I mean, all right then. So sorry, Tim. I was first. And anyway, so that's my twin seconds. Okay, who's your number one?
Who else would it be? Shania.
Yeah.
Shania Twain. Man,
God.
It always go. It's funny for every female. It's like the music video for this, the music video for that. Man, that music video for Any Man of Mine.
Oh yeah. Man. Whose bed have your boots been under? Come on, man. She's walking around in the field with jeans on and a jean vest and Jesus. All right. Yeah, Shania's number one for me too for 90s country. She made by the top of my list. Again, smoke show. So apparently that's what I liked. All right, man. All right, very cool. So let's do groups or bands.
Yes.
Groups or now. Again, I got some honorable mentions.
Oh boy. This is going to be like a 3 hour. This is going to be one of them Rogan podcasts. All right, my number 5 for 90s country bands.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. I gotta add a couple.
I gotta add a couple.
Yeah, I got a lot more. So I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that'll be my 5. All right, go ahead.
We run a professional outfit here.
Absolutely.
Number 5, Shenandoah.
My number 5 too.
Is it?
It's my number 5 right here.
Look at that. Love that stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, number 4, I got Lone Star.
Okay. So, for me,
John Rich Lone Star, no, just kidding.
Yeah. For me, McBride and the Ride.
Oh, okay.
Was number 4 for me. So,
see, I don't even know if I know a McBride and the Ride song.
Yeah, you do.
Do I?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you do. Yeah, you know a McBride and the Ride song. I promise. We've played some.
Have we played one?
Yeah,
okay.
we've played one.
I guess I do.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that one.
Okay, go ahead.
What are we on? Number 3?
Number 3.
Little Texas.
Ooh, Little Texas.
Yeah,
All right. My number 3 is Ricochet. And I'll tell you why. Because for me, and I know those guys, so that was another part of getting to open shows for people.
First time I ever played Daddy's Money. With you out at the Opry. So,
So Heath and those guys, great musicians, great guys, great singers. I mean, all of it. They were just. It was a great band. That was a really great band, man. So okay, number 2. What is number 2?
Sawyer Brown.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. My thing with Sawyer Brown was the 80s thing. So they came out of the 80s, you know.
It was like late 80s.
Late 80s.
Though, wasn't
It was late 80s, but it was late 80s, I think mid to late 80s really. And so to me, I didn't really put them in the 90s category, even though they were making hits in the 90s.
Sure.
And I love Sawyer Brown. It's kind of like Restless Heart. Same kind of deal. That was, you know, Restless Heart's my number 3. No. I'm sorry. They're my number 2, tied for number 2.
Okay.
So, my number 2 was Restless Heart and Brooks and Dunn. Those are my number 2. That's my number 2 guys, right there.
Diamond Rio's my number 1.
Diamond Rio is my number 1.
The number 1 I think of.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now I have my honorable mentions, if you will. Black Hawk,
Yeah.
great. That was really good. Black Hawk, Little Texas,
Okay.
Lone Star,
Yeah.
Sons of the Desert.
Oh God,
Sons of the Desert.
I wouldn't have picked that one ever.
Yeah,
I
dude.
Can't remember them at all.
Oh man, Leaving October. Just when you have a minute, just look up that song.
Leaving October.
Oh
Okay.
man, dude, it's amazing. And then I said Lone Star, the Dixie Chicks. I know. Listen, man, you like them, hate them. You know they are what they are. But 90s country music is exactly what they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just, to me.
Yeah, but are they really a band? Because it's like a vocal group, really, that played instruments.
I guess. Okay.
That's
I'll give you
that's the way I
that,
looked at it.
maybe.
If it's like, hey, that's the drummer for Sawyer Brown or or, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I looked at it. But
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you that. I'll scratch them. Scratch the Chicks.
the
Because
Chicks
can't be the Dixie.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry if I offended anybody with calling them their original name. But, yeah, man. So that's my band group / 90s thing. So
That's
all right.
solid.
That's a solid one. I think both we agreed on a lot. We just had them in a few different spots. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. But
So the first list that I made whenever we were going to do the show, it was the mixed everything, like bands, female, male,
Right, okay.
everything all into one list.
okay.
I'm going to give you that real quick.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
Because there's some on this list
That
didn't make
your
my
tops.
individual list.
Oh, all right.
yeah.
Well,
Because
all
I
right
made
then.
them at 2 separate times and,
Okay,
you know,
all right.
whatever. So my top 5, let's see here. Diamond Rio's number 5, Country Act.
of the 90s.
Of the 90s.
Okay. All right.
For me. When I think
That
of
makes sense.
90s country music.
Perfect.
Number 4, Billy Ray Cyrus.
Okay.
Dude, that's the
Can't-
epitome of 90s.
Yeah,
Mullet,
you
cut off
can't
shirt.
You can't argue that.
Nope.
Can't argue that.
Number 3, Alan Jackson.
Okay.
Number 2, Shania. Number 1, Garth.
Okay. Yeah.
But honorable mentions, the Chicks.
Right.
They made it. And Daryl Singletary.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree. I agree with that. I like that list. That's. I mean, I don't know. I may have thrown.
Boom.
Yeah. I don't know. I may have thrown. Well, I would have thrown Diffie in there just because he's my favorite singer.
Sure.
So I would have thrown Joe in there. Yeah. That's a good list, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
So songs from that era, from the 90s. You talk about Garth Brooks. Like, give me, okay, we're going to exclude the dance. You can't pick that one. And you can't pick Friends in Low Places.
That's what I was going to say.
So give me a Garth Brooks song from the 90s.
Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up.
Okay? So that's yours.
Yeah.
Mine is If Tomorrow Never Comes.
That's a good one.
That song to me stands. I mean, it's like the dance, to me. For me, I think it just stands up it doesn't matter if it was in 1960, 1970, 1980, 90, 20, 2025, 2500, year 2500, if Tomorrow Never Comes is gonna stand
It's
up.
always gonna be around.
To me, that's my Garth song is If Tomorrow Never Comes. I think, that's one for me. All right.
You'd be surprised these songs that hold up. It's like being out playing in bar bands like I do every weekend or whatever. You get all these song requests. If Tomorrow Never Comes, that's always one of them.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Leonard Skinner. It's everywhere you go, you can play any Leonard Skinner song.
Yep.
Play Tuesday's Gone, and there are people are like, yeah, you don't have to play Freebird. You don't have to play Sweet Home Alabama. You can give me 3 steps.
Yeah.
Anything. They don't care.
Nope.
They don't care. They just, as long as it's a Skinner tune, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Okay, so name. Here's another one. Here's another little. So I don't know. Did you have Brooks and Dunn in your list?
Not at
you
all.
Didn't have a.
I sure didn't.
Wow.
They hit the 2000s pretty heavy, and I still that's still pretty fresh, even though they were pretty much from the start to finish in the 90s.
Okay, so all right, Diamond Rio. We both had Diamond
Yes.
Rio as one. So, what Diamond Rio song in your, when you think about all the great Diamond Rio hits, which one in the 90s would you say this is the one that I put in there? This is my song. If I'm going to listen to a Diamond Rio song from the 90s, I'm picking this one every time.
Meet in the Middle.
Okay.
That's just the one that I always go to, that I always remember.
All right. For me, I go back to their I can't remember what record it was on. Mama, Don't Forget to Pray for Me. That's my all-time favorite Diamond Rio song. And I will pick that one every single time. But,
nice.
All right, so let's say female artists. Let's go with a song from females. So you said Any Man of Mine was the video that you remembered from Shania. So what song not of Shania Twain's? So take Shania out. We're not going to talk about her.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the other females that we had.
Okay.
A song from any of them that you said that's 90s country to me.
A female song that screams 90s country to me. Oh my God!
I mean,
so many.
No, I know. I mean, you talked about Pam Tillis with Queen of Denial,
and
all that stuff like that.
Shake the Sugar Tree.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. So 90s. So
Oh, Patti Loveless didn't even make my list.
She didn't make mine either. She was an honorable mention. So I didn't.
Top 5 lists just aren't fair.
Because I know it sucks. Like I said, there's so many artists and so many great songs that come out of the 90s. Man, it's one of those things that's hard to do. It's hard. This is a hard subject to tackle.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So what female song?
Where's that cricket?
I know. I know. I'll tell you. So for me, it is Take Me As I Am, the Faith Hill song.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but again, you go through Trisha Yearwood's Walkaway Joe.
Yeah.
She's in Love with the Boy.
There you go. That's the one for me. That's
the one for you?
Yeah.
All right.
She's in love with the boy.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So, all right. Well, there's our list.
Yeah.
There's our 90s country lists from bands, groups, and males and females.
Yeah.
So, all right. We are here with my good buddy, radio personality for a long time here in Kansas City. Legend. A legend. Let's call him a legend.
Legend means old guy.
Yeah, that's why I say legendary, because that means you're still going. Legend is past tense. Legendary
still going.
is still going, man. So anyway, everybody, my buddy, Mr. Roger Carson, thanks for being on.
Hey, it's great to be here, Tater.
All right. So listen, man, we got a lot to talk about. 90s country, that's what we're talking about on this how. And so we're going to pick your brain a little bit today. Also, I just want to just kind of tell everybody how and why you got into the radio business. What was it? Was it something that you heard? Did you hear someone on the radio and say, I could do that? Or was it more like,
well,
man,
sure,
I want to do that?
It started really with Casey Kasem. When I was growing up, 12, 13, 14 years old, radio meant something. Unlike the millennials today, radio doesn't mean a lot to them because they build their own playlists from Apple and Spotify and all that. So I would listen every Sunday to the great Casey Kasem to count down the top 40 songs in the country. And his voice was so amazing. It would sound like this. From Hollywood, California, I'm Casey Kasem. This is American Top 40. We don't stop till we reach the top. Now, on with the countdown. And remember, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was Casey Kasem.
Very cool, man. That's awesome.
And so I was an artist all through college. I made a living doing it. I'm a heck of an artist. I thought that would be my life. But then it's summertime at the lake. I grew up at the Lake of the Ozarks.
Right.
And so I had an opportunity to do radio. And I thought, what a fun summer job, pick up girls or whatever, and I was the only one that continued with radio when everybody else moved on. Wow. Ended up going to St. Louis, the major market, then came to Kansas City. So that's kind of how WHB is where I came to Kansas City too. So I got into radio because I did have such a deep love for music, all formats. Right. Knew a lot about it, lived my life by music. So I thought, what an easy thing to do. And I knew I could perform on the radio, share stories about the songs, just entertain.
Right.
So that's kind of how it happened.
Well, that's awesome. So when you start, okay, so you came from top 40. When you got to Kansas City, you were still top 40 when you got here. Then 104. Yeah. Once you went to 104, which was it was top 40 then.
It was straight ahead top 40.
Yeah, and
hair bands. We had Warren. You name it. We had them all.
Yeah. So then I remember. So this is how it goes for me. I remember when that station turned country. I remember it was a couple days. I remember of it's 24/7 Garth Brooks. Every song was a Garth Brooks song, and which was obviously it's 90s, and that's what was big. And
it's Garth Brooks in the early 90s. Why wouldn't it be all Garth?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of a radio thing to do. Sometimes when they change a format, they will put one song, and we used to call them cards. They'd stick a card in, and it'd be like Going to Kansas City by the Beatles, and it would play for 3 days straight, and then they would play something totally unrelated. They play like polkas for a couple of days.
Wow.
And then jump right into the top 40 or whatever the new format was going to be for the new station.
Right. So I remember that switch to country music then. So you still worked at 104 when it turned country, right? And then
no, I didn't. I got fired the day it went country.
Oh, okay. So they were like, hey, you're top 40 guy, you're out. And so,
interestingly, everybody was saying, well, we kind of knew something was happening, but everybody said, if anybody survives this, it's going to be Roger because he's done he did the urban cowboy days in the 80s.
Right.
He knows country. He can do this. He's a little more seasoned. At 32 or 3, they thought I was the old guy then. And so I was the one. Kelly Urick and I were fired the same day when they changed the format. Man. And I remember saying at the top of the hour ID from the Country Club Plaza, this is KBEQ Kansas City, Q104.
Wow.
Well, I was just throwing that country, and they're thinking we're going to country.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I'd get the pink slip on that next day.
Huh. So then, okay, so you leave there and you go across the hall?
I went across the street.
Across the street then, right.
It was a new station that KFKF was sister station, same company.
Yeah, right.
And it was called Hot Country CJ 106. Mm-hmm. So we're the stepchild of Q104 because Mike Kennedy and that group that he built that. I mean, he was doing young country, and he was on the ground floor of really is building that whole format in the early 90s, and that's why he's had such major success because he had the smart sport. He understood how to have a great time in the air, had a great staff. Yep. And so we were just trying to carve off a part of their market share, if you will.
Sure.
So Kelly Urick is doing mornings. I'm doing afternoons at Hot Country. Now, shockingly, it only lasted 2 years, but within 6 months, we had like a 6 share on that little country station because we were kind of fun. We were Hot Country, and it was working. Huh. Look at the artists that came in. We had Shania Twain, Toby Keith, Faith Hill, Alan Jackson. All these new bands were coming in, dozens of them.
Right.
So the music was great, Tate. I mean, you know that.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, the 90s to me, that's my years of you're kind of coming into your own as a young man,
coming of age.
Yeah, man, it's coming of age music, and for me, so a lot of those songs resonate. They have more of a deeper meaning for me,
You bet.
And that time frame, it just seemed like it was like great. It was just the 90s.
It was magic, no doubt.
And maybe, and not just in music, I think for a lot of us, and maybe it was because I was too young and I didn't know any better. So, but the 90s were great, man. It was a great time, great era of music and just life, and like I said, maybe it was just because I was young and dumb. I didn't know any better. But
well, let me ask you this: how did you feel the first time you heard Indian Outlaw?
To me, the song was kind of, I'm like, oh, Indian Outlaw. Well, I'd heard Tim before. So reaching back, he had a song called Memory Lane.
Don't take the girl.
No, but he had Memory Lane. So Memory Lane was on that very first album that didn't do anything.
Yes.
They sold like 50,000 units of this.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was a great song. And if I remember right, that was I think Diffie actually wrote that song. I think Joe.
Oh, did he?
I think so.
Oh, we almost forgot about Joe.
Yeah, you can't forget about Joe. For
can't
me.
do that.
But you know what I mean. So Tim, I knew Tim. So that song was just kind of different. When the first time I heard it, I thought, oh, that's weird. That's kind of had all the different things going on, some different bells and whistles that you weren't used to hearing in country music. So it grew. I mean, obviously grew on everybody, and it became a smash for him, and kind of launched him into superstardom what they say overnight, but not really overnight for him.
Not really.
But so yeah, things like that, and that's. Like I said, again, 90s country music, man.
Tell me your take on Mark Chestnut. I want to hear what you say about Mark Chestnut.
Country.
Does it get better than that?
Not much. If it does, no. I don't know if it does. To me, Mark Chestnut was George Strait with a little bit more resonant,
deeper voice.
Yeah, just a more resonating voice. That's kind of how
Don Anderson.
Well, coming out of the 80s, listen to John.
Seminole Wind.
Coming out of the 80s with swinging and some of those first singles.
And I wasn't a big swinging fan.
Well, a lot of people weren't swinging fans, but But you had John Anderson, and he had that string of hits there in the early and mid 90s, and I loved it. I loved it. It was just
when he sang,
man.
"On a straight tequila night."
What a cool
Doesn't
song,
that just
man.
take you away?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
so there's so many, and then for me, so you talked about people coming through the station. That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand in the music business. We have to go see radio. We had to take our singles. Still to this day, you have to do it. It's a radio tour, and it's like 8 weeks before your single comes out, before the drop date of your single, and then maybe 6 to 8 weeks after it comes out, just depending on how you're doing and how it's doing.
When you had to deal with the whole X Factor thing and Sony Records,
right?
You were kind of walking a tightrope because the two local radio stations, 106.5 The Wolf and Q104, you had to walk that tightrope with the power of a love song.
I did. Funny enough, and we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But before that, just kind of telling people how, because a lot of people, Roger, they don't understand how singles become singles.
Right.
The label has a song. They go through.
Who picks it?
Yeah, and they say, okay, we like this one. The artist says, I like this. The label says, we like this. Okay, we'll go with that. Whatever. So they come out. You get an ad date as a program director. You got 100 phone calls a day from every radio worker, people working songs. So, let's say Sony, they call and whoever that rep for that region is calls.
That's it.
They
The
call
rep from the label.
And they're like, hey man, we're going to bring said artist in. We got a new single, and especially for the baby acts, the brand new acts that no one knows or really no one has really heard of. They come in and you go see every radio station in every major market.
Playing in the kitchen,
or not, and that's a bad one. Or just coming in and saying hi and burning out because you realize that this isn't going to fly.
But
here.
By doing that, you may end up being the John Party of the day.
Absolutely. So you go in and see the program director, music director, and then if you're fortunate enough to do like a morning show or an afternoon drive or even an evening thing, you come in and you play your songs, usually live on the air. What you really like to do is have them play the single on the air just to get another
over
spin.
and over and over.
So you have to go meet these people. And so that's how your single starts climbing the charts. The more people you see in the radio world, they're the gatekeepers for your single to be a success, right? So,
but your situation was different, Tate, because you're the hometown boy
mine
that
was
just won the X Factor.
Yeah, right.
We wanted to own you.
Right.
Both stations wanted to claim Tate as our guy.
Right,
but you could not do that because of the label.
I couldn't do
Nor
it.
would you want to anyway.
No, and it's business at that point. Your friends, you can be friends with everybody, but business is business, and it has to stay business. And certain people might get a little butt hurt about certain things, and it happens, and there's nothing you can do as an artist. You can't do anything. But so let's talk about people coming to see you guys and maybe playing their first single on the radio, first time. And you brought up Shania Twain. So she was one that came in, and did she play, or how did that go?
Well, that was incredible because that was at Hot Country CJ 106 in 93. No one knew of her quite yet. She had her first single that wasn't even a hit, and it was called What Made You Say That? She had a video. By chance, I saw it the day before I was on the air, and I said, who is that? My God, she's beautiful. Shania Twain. The song is on. I couldn't forget that. So the next morning, the program director says, well, it's the afternoon show for me. And he said, I've got a couple of people here in the hallway that want to be on the air. One guy's named Toby Keith, and the other is Shania Twain. Well, I said, Toby Keith, okay, yeah, he's got Should Have Been a Cowboy, climbing the charts on the way to number one. Impressive. But Shania, really, she's out, bring her in. So they bring her in.
Hopefully she's still wearing that bikini.
She's stunning. I mean, unbelievably beautiful. Probably 26 at that point, had just come from Nashville. Of course, she was working a nightclub in Canada where they found her, if you will. But in Nashville, she was like, hold it. Now, I don't play this having a luncheon and then write a song with 14 people. I write my own songs. So they were already having an attitude problem with her. She comes into the studio and she shakes my hand like a man. I mean, a hard handshake. And I was like, wow, that's a handshake.
Right.
I didn't know her backstory. I didn't know she was planting evergreen trees on the tundra for her parents. And it was a hard life up there. So I put her on the air. And she's great, but I said, this is amazing. I just saw you frolicking on the beach yesterday in your video. And she says, oh, really? Was I frolicking? Yeah. And I thought, wow, attitude. I love it. So all these years later, she writes the book, The Woman in Me. And she's talking about her first tour, how she's going to these radio stations. And she was talking about her video where she's frolicking on the beach. Where'd she get that?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so that's like I said, as an artist, you go see these people, and you have the good ones. I still to this day have some really good friends in radio from all around the country, and from our radio tour and stuff. And they're super good people. They love music. and they really want to help artists. Then you have some that they don't care who you are or what you're doing. It's just you're the guy in the conference room. You know what I mean? That you bought lunch for everybody. That's all they care about. So. Man, okay, so let's fast forward. So you're at CJ 106 right then.
Hot Country CJ 106 after Q104.
Okay, so then when did the Wolf thing? Obviously, because the Wolf owns 1,000 radio stations in the country or whatever.
Yeah, it's a brand, but yeah, Intercom had the Wolf, and we're taking the AM of 61 Country and moving it to the FM.
Right,
and so that's when it became. Different labels, but pretty much 106.5 The Wolf on FM. And so, that was the demise, unfortunately, of one of the greatest morning show guys and human beings in the world, David Lawrence.
Oh, David Lawrence, that's right.
That still breaks my heart the way that went down.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, they had an interim guy. They had a couple of morning shows in there. Mm-hmm. And I was actually doing middays at KUDL for 10 years. But that shut down, and they turned that into KMBZ FM. Oh. And so I was offered, Raj, would you do mornings at the Wolf? And I was like, I've done country before. I love country. I've always said, if I stop the top 40 stuff, I'll do country in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I started in 2011, and I loved it. I didn't like getting up at 3:15, but it was an amazing ride.
Yeah, man. So that's where, obviously, listening to country radio here in town, you bring up 61 Country. How funny is that? Yeah. We couldn't, my dad, in any vehicle you got in of his, it was 61 Country. There was no other radio station. And, here I am in the 90s, and I'm like, dude, can we move the dial a little bit? And he's like, touch it and I'll break your hand. And I'm like, okay, never mind. So I just remember on the weekends listening to 61 Country, and they always did was it top 20 they did? And then they had, why can't I think of his name? God, all I can think of is Earl Pitts, and that's not it. That's not it. What's his name? The huge broadcaster.
Wes Cunningham.
No. The huge broadcaster. It was like his syndicated show. And now the rest of the story. What was that?
Oh.
What's his name? I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank.
I can't.
Huge. You know who I'm talking about?
Paul Harvey.
Oh,
that. I thought you meant a guy doing
no.
Songs. Songs.
So they would after.
Paul Harvey.
Then Paul Harvey, and that's what I listened to with my dad when we were going fishing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember that closing. I remember them, kind of closing up shop and that going away. Which. Was sad. It because it had been around, I think, the longest of all AM stations here, or country stations, if you will, in town.
Right.
But so fast forward, we're 2011, and listening to radio. We have to bounce back and forth, because you guys might be playing a song that I'm like, I'm not listening to it. I don't want to. I change it. You go from KFKF to 104 to 106.5. You just kind of keep jumping until you hear the song you want to hear or whatever.
Sure.
And until you get to the morning shows, and then working in the morning, I'd get up and I'd always turn. I'm an early riser, and once I'm up, I'm up. It doesn't take me long. I'm going, right? My wife, it's like waking up the devil, and it takes like an hour, and then she'll just look at you. Don't talk. You don't say anything.
She'd be great for a morning show.
Oh my God, it'd be awful. So I would always listen to the music in the morning, and so I always had you guys on, you and Cody, and so I kind of learned. About you guys and loved your morning show that you guys did. And then, of course, now we make it up to the X Factor. So me being who I am, you guys were the first ones to reach out. And I don't know who did that. I don't know if it was you or her or whoever the PD was. I don't know if Wes was there yet or not.
I'll tell you how that went down.
So,
I owned it. I said, Tate Stevens, are you kidding me? Hey, a local guy winning the X Factor. Have you seen how clever he is on that show? How he's got that whole audience enthralled, singing the songs with the way you belted it out. And when they interview you, you were damn funny. I mean, you'd come up with stuff off the top of your head. And our program director, Wes, that's his name. I almost forgot. I've been trying to forget for a while now. But he said, listen, you guys are focusing so much on Cass County. The world is not just Cass County. You may be winning Cass County, but we got all of the metro to worry about. And I said, the entire metro does. The entire country is in on Tate Stevens. He's winning the X Factor, and he's in our back freaking yard. You got to own this guy. You got to love this guy.
Yeah,
that's how it happened.
I remember coming home. We did all the the stuff right after the show aired. The auditions aired. The live auditions aired. I started getting phone calls from, of course, Fox News, because it was a Fox show that I was on. So obviously, but I couldn't talk to them. There was nothing I could say to them because
you couldn't reveal.
We couldn't reveal anything, even though I knew, I'm moving forward at a certain time. I'm going to move forward, but whatever. Up until the live shows happened,
right?
So. It was one of those things, man. And you guys reached out first. You were the first ones to open your arms and say, "Hey, man, we're here for you. We're on your team," and which meant a ton because I know how much, as an artist, I know how much radio means for an artist. I mean, this is the only way people hear our music, and I knew eventually a song was going to come out that I was going to have to push out. And when that day came, it was hard for me. And I remember, I love Mike Kennedy, love him to death. And Mike is one of those program directors that really help artists. He really does. And he
develops them.
Yeah, exactly. And he's one of the best at it.
No question.
In the country. And so, love Mike and those guys over at 104, and they gave me some love, and which is great, and I needed it. I needed everybody here, and not just in Kansas City, but I needed everybody across the country to do that, to make this thing a hit, But to me, it meant the world. You guys came out for the bonfire thing. You guys were at everything that was going on here with that in town.
Remember, it was the water tower that was such a big thing. We said, we got to get Tate's name up on that water tower.
Yeah.
And so working with the mayor and trying to come up with the money and get that actually done. I mean, how do you feel to this day when you drive by the water tower and go, the home of Tate Stevens?
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember when they revealed it on the show. They revealed, it's going to be up there, blah, blah, blah. To me, I thought, man, because if you've ever driven through Yukon, Oklahoma, you say Yukon, Oklahoma, home of Garth Brooks. You go to Moore, Oklahoma, you see home of Toby Keith. You see all these things.
Exactly.
And so you made it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you've made it if your name's on the if your name's on the water tower. So when they did that, it was just a crazy. There was a crazy emotion that went along with that, but it was it still is a constant reminder. I mean, unfortunately, COVID has kind of shut a lot of things down for artists everywhere, not just here in me, but for everywhere. So it's just a constant reminder for me to be the best person I can be for this area and still stand up and make good music when I can and I love it here. Obviously we never left so yeah, I mean it's also a really, really strong reminder of how people can raise you up and so for me, like I said, it's an amazing thing when I drive by. I try not to look at it too much, honestly. I don't. I try not to look at it.
I always look at it.
But
hey, look.
But I know people. For when it's your name, when it's your name, you just try not to focus on things like that because it's an amazing thing, but it's also don't suck, dude, because. Look what we did. Look what we did for you. You know what I mean. So it's kind of that blessing cursed kind of thing.
No,
I love it, but
I understand.
But it is sometimes it's like, golly, man. Yeah.
Well, let's cut to the quick.
So,
let's be honest about something. Let's cut to the quick here.
Sure.
With the power of a love song, in my mind, that song should have been top 10 nationwide. We didn't get the right breaks and the ads at the right timing and the right push and the money behind it that would have made it go.
Right.
Then there was always the question, was that the right pick as the single? That was a big issue.
Man, you know, and it, like we talked about, you know, artists having to come to do radio tours and stuff like that, and the label picks what really comes out first.
Right.
Now, once you become a established artist, I think you have a little more say in, like,
sure,
I don't really care for that one. I want to go with this one. But so, you know, I had to go along with what they wanted to do, and I love the song. It's a big song, huge song, right? Big song. So I didn't have any problem with coming out with that first. I wanted a tempo song first, right? And I thought they were going to go with "Holler If You're With Me." Because that was the Pepsi thing, and
sure
kind of came up with that.
Great video.
Yeah, it was fun and all that. So I thought that was going to be our first single, but they said no, that was just strictly for Pepsi.
They wanted to go mainstream more, they thought.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going to go this way. Funny story about going with a ballad, if you will, first. Brad Paisley. When I talked to him, I met him at the boat show, the Sony boat show, and he just, you know, I was a little concerned with coming out with a ballad because, you know, it's kind of like, oh man, a ballad first, that's kind of tough. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And he just smiled and he said, I came out with a ballad first. I understand where you're at.
Which one was it? One that was a hit?
I hope you and we danced when that was first. Was that his first one?
A monster hit.
Yeah, huge hit. Yeah, obviously. So I think that was his first. Anyway, whatever it was a ballad. And he was like, I've been there, dude. I understand what you're saying. And I said, yeah, I get it. He's like, you'll be fine. Anyway. So yeah, you know, with how things came, with the speed which we had to do things after the show, it was so go. Oh, wait a minute, you know, back up, go. Oh, time out, back up. You know what I mean? Yep. So, and you know, not anyone's fault necessarily, I don't think, but I would have loved to come out with a different, like I said, a tempo song from that first album, and so, but it is what it is, man. It happens, and here's the thing: you can look at things two ways. You can be bitter, or you can just be like, hey, it's what it is, and it was meant to be this way. It wasn't meant to be the other way. And that's kind of how I look at it. Or I'd be really pissed off all the time, you know. So
who knows what the future would have held if you'd have had a string of hits.
Right.
You may not be the happy person you are right now because a lot of people have that fame and their life goes to hell.
You know what? I understand why alcoholism and drug addiction in famous
pressure.
People. It's the pressure.
Yes.
It is pressure. And a lot of people don't understand that because they don't deal with it. And I dealt with a very little, minute piece of it. And I mean, so, but I see that, and I've seen it in artists that I know that are a lot bigger than I would have ever been or whatever. Some of the megastars. And I got to see it firsthand. And it's sad. But I knew why. You know, and you know, like I said, that's, you know, it is. I guess it is what it is. It's a blessing.
Well, whether it was a hit or not, your material was top notch. And I remember the first time you debuted that second album, it was at Smithers' studio.
Yeah,
right there in Belton.
Yep.
And every cut was like, that was really good. Let's hear another one. Oh, I like this better. No, I like that third one. I like the fourth one. So who in the hell could really pick the single?
Yeah, you know, we came out, and that was when I was on RPM. We came out with "Better at Night" was the first single. That's what they chose.
Oh yeah,
and
great song.
It's a cool song, man. It's kind of different. I got out of my comfort zone on that project, which I liked. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. That project was making it. And then, you know, like I said, things happen for a reason, whatever reason that is, I don't know. And you know, and then, you know, we were on a radio tour with Better at Night, and it looked to me we would go in and they were like, this is what we needed. This is every PD. We're like, man, we love Power of Love song. We played it, but this is what we needed to come out with. You need to come out with something like this. It's kind of cool, has a little tempo, even though Better at Night, it's not a really up tempo song, kind of very mid to low mid tempo tune, but it just felt good, had a cool feel. And
it did.
So anyway, and things, like I said, things happen for a reason and whatever that is. But this new project I have is probably the best stuff I've ever done.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's really cool for me. I got to lean on some of my buddies, and Mike Rogers produced my album, or not album. It's like an EP. Mikey did it, and we got to take time and make this thing how I wanted, what I thought I sounded like, if that makes any sense. Like, who is Tate Stevens as an artist right now today? What do I want to say as an artist, and how do I want it to feel? So that's what we did on that. We sat down and we took notes, and we would play things and pick songs, and we were writing and stuff, and it was like some great material. And I got some great material from Craig Morgan, who's a buddy of mine. So Craig is an amazing. You
mentioned Craig being a friend.
Yeah,
yes,
dude, he's an amazing writer and a good dude. And
talk about drawing from real life experience. Good Lord, has he been through hell and back?
Yeah, absolutely. So Craig, he cut a song on his last, not his last one, but his second last album, and he said, "Man, would you cut this song? I think you need to cut it." And I'm like, absolutely, I'll do it. Thank you. So it was one of those kind of things. And I got pitched, of course, when you're looking for songs, people, you got pluggers pitching songs.
That's how you do it.
And I got
trying to find songs.
Yeah,
right.
Man, yeah. And I got pitched a song that Hauser wrote, Randy Hauser.
Love him.
And oh yeah, amazing. So I got pitched a song, and that he'd cut on a previous project that wasn't a hit or anything. It was just an album cut. I thought I think it's a hit, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
And your voice would suit that. Your voice would be nicely matched to Randy's song.
Yeah,
definitely.
Man. So
hey, didn't you play Acoustic Christmas on stage with him?
No. It was our Acoustic Christmas we did was Dan and Shay. Dustin.
Oh, Randy wasn't on that one?
No,
okay.
No. It was Dan and Shay, Dustin Lynch, and
Rachel somebody.
Yeah, and I don't remember her. She was awesome. I thought she was great.
But it wasn't the Osborne brothers. You weren't on that one, were you?
Yeah, that's the one.
That was the Osborne. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember because I was playing the cowbell on one of their songs. and I can't
more cowbell.
Yeah, more cowbell, man. He was like, "I've never been upstaged by a guy playing cowbell." And I'm like, "Sorry."
That's great.
Sorry, it was fun. But anyway, yeah, that was the Acoustic Christmas we did with you guys. But man, so this new project is amazing. But for me, it says who I am. How do we
look for it? Are you going to market it soon, or not quite there yet?
We had a single. We came out with a single called Sugartown, and we just released it iTunes and all that stuff. Where you can, and we did that, and which is really cool because, like I said, we're calling all our friends to play. Jimmy Olander from Diamond Rio played guitar on it, and
wow,
Travis Toy. So we have all these different people on this project.
Some names,
and, yeah, dude, it's cool. So, like I said, I have a lot of cool friends, a lot cooler than me. So
in low places,
yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that's kind of the new project for me. But now,
Tate, when you do play on stage. Right. It's obvious how polished you are, and you also get the feeling that here's a guy who's been there for a long time, crafting his work, and you're a perfectionist on stage. I remember watching you at Kearney and watching you at Kansas Hall and all these different venues, and you really are at that level where, you could have just as easily been at the level of some of these artists that we have talked about in this conversation.
Right.
No question.
Well, yeah, thank you. I try. I take, sometimes it's, for me, I take too much, I don't know, maybe too much pride in what I do. Just because here's the thing. And like I said, we talked about Chris Ledoux. Chris Ledoux, I watched him. I stood on the side of the stage after opening shows for Chris Ledoux. I watched him work. and it meant something to him that everybody in that whole place got something.
They could feel it.
And so just watching him do that, and watching other artists that I'd open shows for, and just fans of other artists, Garth Brooks and George Strait, he just stands there and plays, and it's George, but it's awesome, and that's what you go for, right? But like Garth, there's something that he has. It's at any moment, it's like as soon as he walks on stage, even when he was like, if you go back and watch some of Garth Brooks stuff before he was famous,
when he was in Oklahoma at that little bar,
when he was playing nightclubs and just doing
top 40.
Yeah, he could. It's not demand, it's command. He commands you to.
Well, his passion is so off the charts. I've never seen a guy that cries at the drop of a hat about anything. He's so emotional.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get it, but watching him, just going to see him live and watching all his specials, and what he says is true. I think as an artist, you have to make everybody, or try. You're not going to make everybody happy. It's just not going to happen. At least not for me. But you're not going to make everybody happy. But you have to try. You have to. Here's what I say: if there's 100 people, if there's 100, if there's 100,000 people in front of me, if I can get one person to buy it, to go, I believe that.
Yeah,
I've done my job.
Yeah,
to me,
and that's the thing about you and Garth. Garth, you can't help but believe it because he's so passionate about what he's doing.
Yeah, man.
And he thought he would go to Nashville in 24 hours. He'd cut some deals and he'd be on the way to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And he was smacked down. He went back home with his tail tucked.
Absolutely.
And it was a while before he said, I'm going to try this again. So he goes to Nashville and it takes him 2 years. It was hard.
Well,
but he finally made it work.
You talk about perfecting a craft or honing your skills. Playing nightclubs. When I graduated high school, out on the road 258 days a year.
Jeez.
At 19 years old, playing everywhere and anywhere they would have us, 5 and 6 nights a week, 4 and 5 hours a night, and you learn how to entertain. Because a lot of people don't give a damn if you're there or not. They're just there to drink a beer or whatever.
True.
And you know what I mean? So it's like you have to figure out, how can I get that guy at the bar to turn around at least once and go, all right, that was good. I like that. Or whatever, And as a singer, not so much as an entertainer, I learned, listening to my heroes sing, and trying to sound like Joe Diffie my whole life. Once I heard him sing the first time, I thought, that's who I want to sound like. I want to sound like that guy.
Like between Joe Diffie and Mark Chestnut and guys like that at that level, they paid their dues. The word is authentic. And you hear it in their music.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I wanted to be. I think every artist wants to feel like they're an authentic artist, or they're authentic to what their craft is. Definitely I do, and I hope that's what people get out of it. I don't know if it is.
Well, there's also the business machine of it, and obviously, when you say that, you think of reality TV shows that we've had tons of them, and that's why American Idol is so burned out at this point. That brand is so tired. But when it started, it was captivating, and there was some artists that cut on through.
Huge artists. Carrie Underwood.
Carrie, number one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but anyway, going back to music and the 90s music. That like I said, AJ and I were sitting here talking, and I'm like, give me your top 5 male artists of 90s. So we'd list them off, and we had agreed on a few, but I had like a lot of AJ's like, man, you got a lot of honorable mentions on that list. And I'm like, you got to, man. There's so many artists.
You're only giving me 5.
Yeah, there were so many artists that come out in the 90s that were great, and some of them you don't even hear. And now then you go into the late 90s. We were kind of early mid 90s. AJ and now. We're kind of doing the early to mid 90s in our list, but you get into the later 90s. And you have the Daryl Singletaries, and you have those kind of artists. Holy cow. I mean, that's a whole different thing. You know, you're like, oh, okay, so this guy, you know, is Keith Whitley reborn and better. It's ridiculous, man. You know, so it's hard to pick five, and you know, the female artist even too. You know, we're like George Strait. You can't really count George as a 90s artist because he was back in the 80s, but he was still making hit records in the 90s. And
that's why he's the king, because he has 60 plus #1 songs.
Yeah, but Reba's the same way, 80s all the way through the 90s. She was huge in the 90s. And
good point.
And it's like you can't count Reba because she came from the 80s era. You know, Randy Travis was making hit records in the 90s. You know, so it was hard to put our list together, but you know, like I said, so man, I got to tell you, I appreciate you being here and
anytime. We just got warmed up.
I know.
So I
know we could talk for hours. There's
probably should wrap this one up.
Yeah, there's so many stories we could talk about. But again, man, Roger, I appreciate everything. Obviously, you know, and I've told you this 100 times. I appreciate all the support that you guys gave me. You know, after the show, and it means the world. It really did mean the world, and it still does to me to this day. You know, it meant something that you guys cared enough to take, you know, to even say things and do the extra stuff that you did and show up to the things and things like that. So well,
it so happened that your family kind of became our family a little bit.
Right.
You know, we got to meet people that we didn't know before and loved everybody in Belton,
me too.
Cass County. Those are memories. Those are memories I'll always cherish the rest of my life.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's a great time. It was a great time for me. Still, you know, I still love it, and that's why this podcast is the Sweet Life. You know, no pun intended. I always say that because of the song Sweet Life, but it really is. I have a great life, and I had a great life before the X Factor and everything, but we have a great life now, and still, I guess, and it just keeps getting sweeter, I guess. The older I get, I'm kind of like a grape. I'm turning into a raisin pretty soon.
You're wine.
Yeah, I'm wine.
Now.
I'm wine now. So anyway, Roger Carson, man, I got to tell you, thank you so very much, man, for doing this. And we're going to have you on again because we have a lot of stories. We can talk for hours. So we'll do this again. We'll do this again soon.
There is a few we can't tell, but we'll keep them secret.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, we got to get you playing live again. Number one,
man. I can't. I every time AJ comes over, I'm like, we gotta start playing, dude. I gotta start playing again because it is. I need it for my soul. You know what I mean? I need that for my soul to play music and so yep. Hopefully soon we're gonna get to do it. But dude, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Out of here, Tater.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Man, AJ, I this is one of my favorites so far that we've done. 90s country music to me, it's probably number one, number two all time period country music. You're right.
Yes, I completely agree.
You know, just the stories that the artist told. You know, and having Roger on with those cool, you know, radio stories. I mean, that
absolutely
people don't understand that, you know, as an artist, like it's, you know, like we said earlier, you got to go see the radio people. You got to talk to them, get to know them, and then they play your music. So it's kind of cool, little insight for everybody. So. Man, subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. Review it, please. We need the reviews. I like reading them. You know, good and bad. You know, like I said, it all helps at the end of the day. And be sure to we're going to start trying to film these, right?
Yeah.
Get some video out. So look for that on YouTube and yeah. Next week's going to be exciting too. Listen, next week we're going to talk about kind of what's happening. It's just issues in the world, in our country, in other countries maybe, whatever. Doesn't even matter. We're just going to talk about everything. So thanks for listening again, guys, and we will see you next time.
Ain't this a sweet life?
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Want to ask a question for a future episode? Well, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter with #Sweet Life Podcast. And be sure to give us a 5-star rating and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date on the latest news and information for the Sweet Life Podcast. And we'll see you next time.